What's up, everybody? Rob here. So, the Old West is filled with myths and legends, some of which are true, some of which are not so true, some of which are highly embellished, and some are, let's just say, downright disturbing. So, here we go, a look at one of the most infamous figures of America's frontier, liver-eating Johnson, the Hannibal Lecter of the Old West. All right, let's get down to it. So, there's very little known about John Liver-Eating Johnson, or Liver-Eating Johnston, or John Garrison, or John Jeremiah Garrison Johnston, or some combination thereof. His actual name is actually subject to some debate. In any case, he was born in 1824 somewhere in New Jersey. Anyway, not much else is really known about his early life, and that's also pretty much irrelevant anyway. But around the time of the Mexican-American War, he joined the U.S. Navy, but deserted after striking one of his officers for reasons that are currently unknown. He deserted the Navy and fled out west and ended up in northern Colorado, where he earned living as a trapper, a hunter, a wagon train leader, and a mountain man, changing his name from Johnston to Johnson. If it wasn't already Johnson, there's some indication that it might have already been Johnson. Point is, he's now John Johnson. Okay, there you go. Anyway, a few years later, he moved north to what is now Montana, where he married the daughter of a Flathead Indian chief, and him and his wife settled down together, once again moving back to Colorado along the Little Snake River. Now, shortly afterwards, during that winter, Johnson was away for several months trapping, because that was when trapping was done. During the winter, there are thicker pelts on animals, and that's when the pelts are most desirable. So he was away, tracking and hunting animals for their pelts. Okay, when he finally returned home that spring, he was met with a grisly sight. His wife was dead, with several arrows sticking out of her corpse, which was now more bones after several months of exposure. Even worse, in his wife's lower abdomen was a smaller skull, that of their unborn child. There was only one possible culprit for this atrocity: the Crow Indians. Rather than simply mourn for his loss, he then began a one-man war against the Crow, rampaging through their lands, scalping and killing every Crow warrior he found. Johnson spent the next 2 decades slaughtering the Crow without mercy, basically turning into Doom Guy, finding one and massacring them, becoming their worst-case scenario. At one point, it was alleged that the Crow sent a kill team of about 20 warriors to hunt Johnson down and finally eliminate this threat. No one knows exactly how this played out or what exactly happened with all this, but none of them would ever return. And it wasn't limited to the Crow either, because you got to diversify your massacres. See, he was actually captured by the Blackfoot tribe, who were going to hand him over to the Crow for a reward. Now, Johnson was a big man. He was over 6 feet tall and 200 plus pounds of pure muscle and hatred. And while he was captive, he managed to break free from his leather straps that held him down. He then killed one of the Blackfoot warriors that was guarding him, took the warrior's knife, and then he fought his way out of camp, escaping to the nearby woods, so he can once again continue his murderous rampage throughout the Native Americans in the region, specifically the Crow. Though it's never mentioned, I would also presume that he wasn't too fond of the Blackfeet either at this point, but that's not mentioned. That's just a pure supposition on my part. Any case, so throughout all this, you must be asking yourself, where does the name Liver-Eating Johnson come from? Like, that's a very oddly specific nickname to be giving someone. Well, it's because he ate livers. And no, it wasn't from buffalo or moose or deer or something. No, human livers. It was believed that, according to the Native Americans, that the liver was the source of a warrior's strength and courage. So by eating the liver, he was absorbing the strength and power of his fallen foe. And so he did this. When he would kill a Crow warrior, he would eat their liver. Now, here's the thing. I know no further details beyond this, and I really don't want to look into it any further because it's actually quite disgusting. But now, whether he ate it raw or if he cooked it, were there onions involved, saute it nice beforehand. Did he eat the entire liver, just like a little ceremonial? But I don't know. I don't know, and I honestly don't want to know. Any case, that's where he got the name Liver-Eating Johnson from. And he became infamous throughout the West as, a guy who ate livers. Yeah. Well, over the course of his one-man rampage of destruction, he killed and ate, allegedly, over 300 Crow warriors. After nearly 20 years of carnage, he finally ended his one-man crusade, and he made peace with the Crow, who we would later all call his brothers. And thus ended the bloody career of liver-eating Johnson. Except everything I said was a complete lie. See, that's all, well, it's not a complete lie. It's all a myth. See, it's been exaggerated over the years, and one tale led to another tale, and what had a very tiny, tiny kernel of truth to it now gets extrapolated into this massive tale, which, it fueled the legend, and now we have this guy basically eating a battalion's worth of livers. Well, what is the actual reality to all this? Well, in reality, Johnson's life did start out the same as the way I described it. He was born in 1824 in New Jersey. He did join the Navy, and he would eventually change his name and head out west. The part about him striking his officer in the Navy, that's debatable. Probably did happen, but it can't be confirmed. Anyway, there in Montana and southern Colorado, he did work as a mountain man, a trapper, a scout, hunter, wagon train leader, etc. All that stuff is true. And that's pretty much it. That's all we can really verify about his life. The part about his wife is almost certainly not true. The timeline does not match up at all. Apparently, according to the legend at least, when his wife was killed by the Crow, he was still known to be in the U.S. Navy. So that's still not possible. It's just the timelines don't add up here. Now, he did fight against the Indians throughout his life, and this included battles against the Sioux, but really nothing really is confirmed about him actually fighting against the Crow or the Blackfeet. So, yeah, there you go. There's very little to confirm that actually happened. Also, during the Civil War, he was loyal to the Union, and he joined the 2nd Colorado Cavalry, which was organized in St. Louis, Missouri in 1864, and he was discharged the following year at the war's end. There's no indication that he actually saw combat during that war, but he did serve the Union, such as it was. Anyway, after the war, he would move back west, and he would become the deputy of Colson, Montana, and the marshal of Red Lodge, Montana. And in 1899, he would be admitted to a veterans hospital in Los Angeles, California, where he would eventually pass away in 1900. He would be buried there in LA, but in 1975, his remains were moved to Cody, Wyoming. The legend of his life would inspire the 1972 film Jeremiah Johnson, starring Robert Redford, who was actually a pallbearer at his reinterment ceremony in 1975. So, where did the liver-eating legend come from? What is the source of this? Well, see, during one of his battle with the Sioux, he made an off-the-cuff remark and kind of an off-color joke about eating liver. Just some, middle-of-battle remark about, eating one of the Lakota's liver, one of the Sioux livers, which he didn't do. He just, again, heat of the moment, bit of adrenaline, dark humor that soldiers are known for. And, it just kind of snowballed there. And it snowballed out of control until it became a legendary part of Old West history. So there you go. That's a very, very brief look at liver-eating Johnson. Nothing really spectacular here. Just figured you'd find it interesting and entertaining. It's just a little anecdote from America's history that I just thought I'd share with all of you guys, and just trying to bring a little bit of reality to the legend. The Old West is full of legendary characters like this. Maybe I'll cover some more, but this is just a real quick thing. Any case, that's it for this video. Please hit the like and subscribe button. More videos will be coming out whenever I get around to it. Have a good day. Or don't have a good day. Your adults have any kind of day you want. See you all later.